Alright, today I am going to talk about Hawaii and the full moon, and I'm going to just adjust this a little bit. Hopefully I don't get rained on. If I do, I will have to pull back and rethink. But anyway, so what I'm talking about is Hawaii. Today is the full moon, and Hawaii is a location that is ruled by the sun. So and ruled by the sun during a full moon. So I have someone I know here on the island that works in the hospital, and whenever there is a full moon here in Hawaii, we end up having a lot of people needing to go into the hospital. Well, the moon right now is 7 degrees, you know. Your luck might not be so lucky, so just do keep that in mind, and that's in Leo. And that is Hawaii's ruler. So today what I'm going to do is just kind of talk about sort of the aspects of Hawaii from a natal chart perspective, and I pulled this chart as of today. And you can see Chiron down in the 4th house. The 4th house is your house of roots, your house of moon. It would be something that you would think of as your mother, okay? That is in Aquarius. So ruled by Uranus, sudden and unexpected surprises, okay? And that is opposing the sun. So there, you know, some additional things. And then you see up between the 9th and 10th house, right on the cusp, is Uranus, that sudden and unexpected surprises. So it's in opposition right now to Chiron, which is in the asteroid belt. And Chiron is kind of your wounded healer, kind of where there's wounding and there's healing taking place, which that's kind of interesting in that is in the collective. I found out today that myself and my cousin who lives in Maui and another cousin of mine who lives in Volcano, all three have a similar kind of cancer right now. Although mine is maybe 22 people, if that even is the right number. We don't know for sure, because the history on what I have wrong with me is so vague, you know. Basically, you know, where do we go from here? Well, I found out that my cousin in Maui is in a similar kind of situation, has a similar sort of presentation. Mine presented and is in my cervical spine, and his is as well. So, you know, I find that rather curious, you know. But Hawaii is a place, or Hawaii is a place that people come in the collective, and they know that it is a place that is good for healing as a rule. And you can see that there's some reasons for that in the 5th house, which would be considered the house of children, the house of a playwright, the drama. You know, your ages 14 through age 20 approximately, you know, where your life unfolds, basically, if you were using, and I realize I'm kind of getting into stuff that you guys wouldn't have any, it's considered the age model, you know, but this is a place that attracts the moon in Pisces, people who otherwise maybe need to be put in the hospital, or maybe need to have their life handled differently. You know, I mean, I know for myself right now, you know, Hawaii has made all the difference in the world. When I came here, I had lost consciousness several times, and the fact that I've been able to be here and actually get properly diagnosed and do the work is a rather amazing feat. Okay, so also Hawaii shares some similar aspects with me, which I find that fascinating. But we're talking about Hawaii in the full moon. Right now in the 1st house, Jupiter, to expand, is in Scorpio. So, you know, the sharp truth. Now keep in mind that this is a chart that is the USA chart, and so I would be remiss in saying it any other way. Hawaii had to expand some sharp truths, and it really displaced a lot of the local people. The 1st house is ruled by Mars, survival, usually in Aries, okay? This is in Sagittarius, or in this case, it's, actually, no, it's, let me look at that. It's in Scorpio. Okay, to expand in Scorpio, to expand a truth that's kind of bitter to swallow for the local people here. And I think that that would be a very truthful reality that once the United States in 1959 took over Hawaii, it was cold. It was creative for their own means. It was lucky for them. Notice the 21. It's 3 and 21. And so times 7 would make that 21, wouldn't it? Triple sevens. Lucky for them. But not so fortunate for the people of Hawaii, who had to then become somewhat displaced, as you can see in the second house in Sagittarius, the house of objects, ruled by Venus, where we want to be comfortable, we want to have a way forward, we want to have our lives in Hawaii, and yet it's difficult for the people on the day-to-day basis here, because, well, the prices of land and homes are way out of the average person's reach. And so owning objects here is not so easy, and it's kind of locked down by the wealthy, and the average person is honestly kept out of the mix by just, it's not affordable. But by it not being affordable, it also displaces people who are from here, which is a tragedy of epic proportions, and I can't say enough about that. And essentially you can see that Saturn squares up to the moon, the things that should matter for the local people, like housing and their day-to-day well-being. Well, when you can see that in the first house that something came in and expanded itself and told its sharp truth, and it created a situation in the second house where that sharp truth displaced a lot of people, and did so without regarding them and their faith. And I can tell you, being here on the ground in Hawaii, the people of Hawaii are deeply faithful people. There's a lot of legends. There's a lot of energy around gods and goddesses, and what you can drive over Pele back and what you can't. And I apologize, let me put that back anyway. You know, there's people here are in, for lack of better ways of saying the words, are aware of some energies, if you will, that they need to be mindful of and respectful to. And being here on the ground in Hawaii, it's palpable. There is something about this place that's living and breathing. I am at the heartbeat of Mother Earth, and it is palpable. And so, you know, here we are where you have these limitations, Saturn coming over, squaring up with the moon and saying, yeah, let's get cozy. But there's nothing cozy about the amount of money it takes to actually live on this island. Now, I can say that the moon plays nicely with the 9th and the 10th house. There's a lot of trining. That means that the energies have a flow to them that works. But yet, do we take note of, there is some energy in that 10th house that doesn't work, and it is where it attaches to Venus. That it doesn't work for the local people. They don't get their needs met the same way, and they are having to take a master class in kindness to be hospitable to the tourists when they come. And I can say that is, you can see in the 11th house, where they're having to watch their level of aggression in the groups, because it is about their income, Virgo, to receive income, or to be able to make a way forward. And again, I'm going to say this is a chart remade from the United States coming in and taking over, and probably it wasn't in the best interest of the Hawaiian people. The North Node suggests that yes, that they've made a career of in groups of like-minded people of selling their wares, which is their sunshine, which is the ruler here in Hawaii. But to what cost, okay? And in the 12th house, you've got Neptune in Libra. this is the question: how fair is this? And again, you'll notice the quincunxial, and that is this line with the K in it. The quincunx, there was the other quincunx I talked about, where Neptune and the moon have to square off what's right for the people versus what other people dream of in the unseen. And as I say, you know, right now, people like myself come to this island because, well, we're sick, or we have some reason why we feel we need to be here. And in my case, it's because I need the sunshine, I need the healing, and I also think I need the pulse of Gaia's back, her heartbeat under my feet, because, well, quite frankly, it might be just what's keeping me alive. So at this point, what I'm going to do is I am going to shuffle the cards, okay, and I will just continue to kind of go over this chart. You know, and the things that work together nicely are the things that you see triangles, or they have stars. Those are called sextiles, the stars. The triangles and the stars are sextiles and trines, and those are the things that work comfortably in Hawaii. And of course, we all know that it's, you know, we all want to play in the sun, we all want to be in the sun, and we want to bathe in the ocean. So of course that would be something that would be appealing, you know, and that's why it's a trine. But, you know, keep in mind that a quincunx is a type of a natal configuration that, in my opinion, is more of a master class. These people are taking a master's class in allowing people to come and swim in their ocean and bask in their sunshine, and so do so when you do come to Hawaii. Come to Hawaii and be respectful, follow the rules, be mindful. Come with a heart of a servant, and not as somebody who is on vacation and entitled. Because I think, for me, I find that exceedingly troubling. Now I'm going to pull down this chart for just a second, and I'm going to put down the cards. And I realize I'm not in camera today, and I'm just not going to be. My body is so sick, and I'm just kind of tired of explaining myself in some ways. You know, I look sick, I feel sick, and it's obvious that I'm sick, and so I'm just going to keep that off the camera for right now. Okay, so I've got my cards spread around. I'm going to go ahead, and in this reading, I'm going to select 12, because this is a Taroscope, and we're going to use the Rider-Waite deck today. So I'm up to 4, and 5, and 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. All right, so I'm going to pick these up. And I'm going to cut 3 times. I'm probably going to have a lot more going on here this week than I want, but that's the way it goes. So 1, 2, and 3 for our foundation. I still use a foundation even on the Taroscopes, and it's a Knight of Wands. You know, that there's some action going on here in Hawaii that perhaps is that they're kind of, I'm going to go ahead and put the camera back. You know, maybe there's some energy here that you would be surprised by. Like, perhaps it's not, you know, maybe the locals aren't as interested in what we feel. You know, in some ways there is some fiery energy developing, and I can tell you that the people here, they probably have some ideas that the way the United States handled themselves in coming in and laying down their foundation was inappropriate. And so there's new energy, right? We're starting to question, okay, COVID came, and, you know, are we really prepared as a location to handle ourselves outside of tourism? Something new is growing in that regard. Does that mean that tourism will stop? Probably not. But does it mean that Hawaii needs to diversify? Oh, most definitely we need to diversify. It's no longer an option. Okay, so the first house is Jupiter and Scorpio, and that is going to be ruled by Mars. And what we get is a Six of Wands. You know, something is moving in, basically. Something different, a sharp truth maybe, is moving in. Something is growing and developing that is different and necessary because, quite frankly, a location that is tourist-based and no longer has tourists, or has tourists but more limited sense of tourists, you know, you've got to start thinking, okay, what all do I have available to myself, and what do I need to do with what I have or don't have? How can I make what I have work for me? Or how can we make Hawaii work for the people who we should have been thinking about in the first place, who are from here? That's an important detail that money seemed to have overlooked. So, well, here we are, and we have an opportunity due to COVID to re-examine some of the rights and wrongs. With a passion and a fire, we can come back and look at this. And guess what? We are passion, we are fire on this island. This is a fire-dominant place. And so we are seeing some wands, and I'm kind of amazed. I've got another wand to show you. I have a Seven of Wands. We've been embattled, right? And we're trying to grow out of this sense of embattlement. This is going to go to that Saturn in Sagittarius, where we, in the second house of objects, ruled by Venus, where we want things to feel good, we want things to look good, we want to have a home, we want to have security, we want to have objects, but it's a lot of hard work for the local people. And they have inspirations, they have passions, they have families, and they need a place to live. And this, quite frankly, has been a difficult circumstance for the local people. Okay, in the third house, we get moving, looking elsewhere for our way of being, and that's in the third house of information, ruled by Mercury. So this is they're looking for other ways, for other ideas, things that can help them grow, that allow them to still prosper and find their way forward. So maybe tourism isn't the only option in town, and let's hope not, because really I think who knows what's going to happen, but you know, it seems like we just keep getting more news that's not good news, and we have to keep kind of readjusting our thinking. So in the fourth house is Chiron, and that's going to be an asteroid, and that's not the same thing as a planetary understanding, but that is in Aquarius, okay, and this house is ruled by the moon, and it is generally thought of as kind of how you listen, how you feel heard, how you feel mothered, okay? This has been heartbreak for the local people. Of course it has, because, well, quite frankly, when the bottom line is, it's all about the bottom line, and you have to live, maybe in a less than qualified housing or wherever you can live, that's not a comfortable way of doing things. It's not a comfortable thought. And swords are going to represent air and thoughts, things that are coming in at you that are uncomfortable. And, well, at this time on the island, a lot of people who are employed for tourists working are not employed because of COVID. So, yes, it not only is it difficult here, but in some ways, for the local people in their house of roots, it's heartbreaking. Okay, in your fifth house of children, drama, this is in Pisces, in the unseen moon. So, nobody's listening to anybody. And the South Node, maybe from times past, where you would have thought people would have been connected to the information and been willing to take it in and provide, a better story to the backdrop, but that didn't occur. Okay, and in this sense, the moon, no one's been listening to in the fifth house to the things that matter, your children, to your family life, to the things that we can look back on in our photo albums and go over the details and enjoy the story of our lives. It's not exactly available here in that sense because, well, it's not affordable. And what do we get? We get the Six of Cups. that relationship, that codependency, that lover's position where we're wanting something, we're exchanging something for something, but are we really getting what we want and need out of it? Or are we compromising just a little bit too much for our own good? And I would suspect that at this point, let me just make sure, yeah, I am on the right house, that maybe we've compromised too much for our own good. And the people of Hawaii are having second thoughts whether or not they've over-compromised, which of course they have. I mean, you know, when you can't afford to live where you're from and you can't afford for your children to live where they're from, you've got to ask yourself, where's the balance in this giving and receiving process? Where's the codependence? Where am I needing to shore up my energy? Well, here we go. In the house, the sixth house ruled, okay, the fifth house is ruled by the sun, okay, and that's where our play, right? The sixth house is ruled by Mercury. How we work, our health, how we give and receive coin. And you can see that he's sitting tightly over his coin. That the greed here in this sense is epic. I know for myself, I'm finding some of the real estate buying here is maybe not wise. We have volcanoes going off, and when the volcanoes happen and the lava touches your land, it's no longer your land, it belongs to the federal government. Or a lot of the land is owned by only the very wealthiest, and the buildings that are upon it are leaseholds, and essentially you buy the prospect of being able to live in your building, but it's a leasehold, which means that the wealthy person owns it, and at some point, if he doesn't or she doesn't renegotiate the lease, then the entire building and all therein goes back to the leasehold land. So nothing really right about any of that, and this is what's been put upon the local people. It is some greed in some epic ways, okay? Then you've got the seventh house. That is where you have wounding. The state of Hawaii is wounded in the house of partnerships. The things that they agreed to, they limited themselves. And do notice that Saturn right there is in that second house, which is Taurus right there. So this is connected. Those limitations, that partnership, it's bullish, it's hard here. And people who come here need to kind of almost be independently wealthy. And here we have an Ace of Cups. They have to have their own way forward financially, or this isn't an easy place to make it. It costs about twice as much for electricity, twice as much for water, twice as much for rent. You don't get your mail delivered to your door in a lot of places. The things that these people gave up to have tourism is rather sad, okay? The eighth house, sex, death, and rock and roll, part of fortune and information. Oh, gee whiz, they forgot to mention it was going to be hard for you. The devil is in the details. And yeah, that's kind of the deal. The devil's in the details, in the house of sex, death, and rock and roll. They forgot to mention that this was going to be devastating to your family, and that your family was going to move away and have to do things very differently. We're going to have to be tied to the devil in some way and minister to his real estate and financial needs, because the eighth house is also going to be real estate. You have Mercury in Cancer. And Cancer is going to be why it works with the moon, because it goes with the moon. The moon and Cancer go together. The eighth house, it's going to be ruled by Pluto. The ninth house is going to be ruled by Jupiter, where you find your house of moon all of a sudden popping up. The things that you think about, the things that matter to your family. It's hung up. Oh, let me put that, I don't read upside down. It's a hanged man, where the people of Hawaii are hanging out and, you know, trying to figure out, okay, well, I've got this circumstance here where I live here, and, you know, my kids can't afford to live here, or my family members, you know, I live here, so everybody comes to my house and they all live stateside. You know, there's just something wrong with that when you're considering that the people from Hawaii should have the ability to stay in Hawaii, but they don't. And the ninth house, it's like Hawaii is this place that is foreign to them. It is, It's not allowing them to stay, and that for me is a troubling truth. Okay, in the 10th house, that's ruled by Saturn. It has the Sun and Pluto, Venus, okay, all in Leo, looking to do its playwright in the highest organized sense. The government kind of came in and played its funny 14-year-old joke, and here's the people of Hawaii, looking to exchange cups, and it's very difficult for them to do because their partnership in that sense, a family sense, has been interfered with from the highest levels, called our government. Now I'm kind of surprised this video is taking this angst, but I don't know when I start a reading where it's going to go. It's an art, but to find that the 10th house, the highest house in our charts, okay, and generally you think of the highest house as government or the Pope, it seems as if they played a dirty on us, because here we have Pluto, the 13-degree Pluto saying, ha ha, guess what, the joke's on you, it's Friday the 13th and I've come to take from you. And I think that that's how the people of Hawaii might be feeling, especially during this full moon, because the moon and the sun, in this sense, there's a lot of energy here where the moon is in the sun's house, okay, and it wants to play nicely, but it has to have some quincunxial energy to do so. It's not exactly flowing, and it doesn't exactly work. And I can tell you, living here, it doesn't exactly. It's true. It does. Okay, so I lost my connection, and and this energy, like I said, this quincunxial energy doesn't exactly work. And then we move on to the 11th house. We have Mars, 0 degrees in Virgo, where it's saying that the role of survival here, that they have to work hard at it in groups. They have to look at it from multi-pronged perspective. Their North Node is saying that Virgo, that their career is in the details. And I think that in some ways the details weren't really all that fairly shared with the local people. And right now I think that it is resulting in judgment, that at this time that the people, there are local people here who feel like that they don't want to be a part of the United States. Now, I have not spoke with anyone myself personally on this matter that's involved in any kind of a movement, but it's palpable here. I can feel that the local people feel very strongly that there's something wrong with a system that has forgotten about what matters, and that's their people. And why wouldn't they say, hey, look, we've got our people here, and you can see they're rising up, and they're saying, you need to pay attention to the details, because it's affecting the health of our people, our way forward, and we're here to say we need to rise up and we need to do something about it. This isn't working. It's causing us to know death. And so, yes, I think that in that sense, from the 11th house of groups, that there's some perspective change taking place. The 12th house, you have Neptune in Libra, where you dream of fairness, and you can see that they all want to step into the happy family mode, and they're looking to create a happiness that they don't currently have. And with that, I thank you very much for joining me here today. Please do hit the like, share, and subscribe button, and do join myself and my lovely co-reader, Pearl Rowland, over on www.twiggy.com. And I thank you so much for joining me here today.